All right, today we're going to be multiplying rational numbers, Chapter 2, Section 4. A couple things to note what a rational number is. A rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction. And that is something that you should already know. Just review there. A couple examples would be 0.3 repeating. That can be written as 1/3. 0.112. That can be written as 112 over 1,000. And so forth. So those are rational numbers. A couple examples of non-rational numbers would be something like pi. Pi is not rational. It's irrational because it goes on forever and it's a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. Alright, so what we're going to be doing today is learning how to multiply numbers like this or like this. We'll be multiplying all sorts of numbers today. A couple things to note. When multiplying decimals, you do not need to worry about the location of the decimal. If you remember back when we were adding and subtracting decimals, you had to line up the decimals. For example, if I wanted to take 2.14 times, plus say 14.7, got to make sure you line up that decimal right down the middle there. So if I were to add those together, make sure you keep that spot open by putting a 0 there, and you can go forth and add that together later. But with multiplication, you do not need to do this. Only for addition and subtraction. For multiplication, you just put this bigger number of numbers, I suppose, on top. That's the only thing you have to worry about. So in this scenario here, we'll call this number 1. Number 1 there, you've got 2 digits. And you've got 2 digits. So it does not matter which number you put on top. For me, I just like to put the bigger number on top anyways, but it does not matter. Now in this scenario, the decimal ends up lining up, but you do not have to worry about it. When multiplying numbers like this, you start at the far bottom right with the 4, and you multiply up and over. So 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. Then you slide over to the next number, which is 2, and you multiply the same numbers. Multiply the 1 and multiply the 3. So 2 times 1. Oh, before you do that, you put a little spacer there. You slide over a placeholder. 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. Once you're done multiplying, you add down the digits. 4 plus 0 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4, and 6 plus 1 is 7. And then from there you go back to the original question, 3.1, 2.4, how many digits are behind the decimal? In this scenario, you've got 1 digit behind the decimal and another digit behind it. So that's a total of 2 digits behind the decimal. So therefore what that means is you take where the decimal would be on 744 and you move it in 2 places. 1, 2. So the answer for 2.4 times 3.1 is 7.44. All right, let's do the next one. We have 3.12 times 4. Again, make sure you put the bigger number of digits on top. So in this scenario, 3.12 has more digits in the number than 4. And remember, you do not have to line up the decimal. Notice the decimal with 4 is really right there. So once the numbers are in, without worrying about that's the decimal, go ahead and multiply. So again, you go up. We're going to multiply the 4 times the 2, 4 times the 1, and then the 4 times the 3. So 4 times 2, 8. 4 times 1, 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Again, look back at the original question. How many digits are behind decimals? Well, in this example, we've got 1, 2, and that's it. 2 digits. So therefore, you move the decimal 2 spots in. So my answer is 12.48. Now, a couple things to note. When you're multiplying like this, make sure your answer makes sense. 12 makes sense to me. If I were to accidentally count, say, 1 digit and say my answer is 124.8, you should know that number is way too big. 3 times 4 should not be anywhere near 124. So 12.48 is a logical answer to 3.12 times 4. Another thing to note, just move this. When multiplying fractions, you need to multiply straight across the numerator and the denominator. So, a couple things to remember. The numerator is the number on top, and the denominator is the number on the bottom. So in this example, 4 is the numerator, 7 is the denominator, 1 is the numerator, and 2 is the denominator. So when you're multiplying fractions, which are rational numbers, multiply straight across. Very, very simple. Since they're both positive, my answer is going to remain positive. Remember to keep that in your head at all times. 4 times 1 across the top is 4, and 7 times 2 across the bottom is 14. We get here and we notice that they are both even. So therefore we can simplify this fraction by dividing both the top and the bottom by 2. We can reduce it. So we get down to 2/7 by simplifying. I'm going to just add this so you can see what I did. I divided top and bottom by 2 because they are both divisible by 2. That simplified it down. All right, moving on to the next one. And you should know how to multiply fractions. This should be a little bit of a review. Here we are. Same type of question. However, if you look at it, the front number, -5/8, is negative. So we're taking a negative fraction times a positive fraction. So therefore, my result is going to be negative. Notice I thought about that first before doing any multiplying, adding, or dividing. So again, multiplying across the top, 5 times 7 is 35. And 8 times 11 is 88. These numbers don't have anything in common, so that is your answer. Fairly simple. Last thing to note when multiplying, make sure any mixed fractions you have are written as improper fractions before you multiply. So here's an example. We have 2 different ways of doing the same product. However, the bottom way is not correct. The bottom way is a way that some students like to do. They think it's short, nice, and easy, but it is not correct. They like to take 3 times the 4 and get to 12, and then they take 1 times the 3 and 2 times the 4, and this is not the right answer. Not even close. So please make sure you turn your mixed fractions into an improper fraction. If you forgot how to do that, I will show you really quick. You take the denominator and you multiply to that number in front, and then you add the number on top. So that turns into 7 halves. Hopefully this should turn out the same. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19. So that's how I got 19 fourths. And then doing that multiplication, you get to this end product. And if your question starts as a mixed fraction, try to make sure your answer is also a mixed fraction. I would accept either one of these answers. However, the 16 and 5/8, the 16 and 5/8 is a better looking answer. There you go. Now I just have a ton of just examples that we're just going to go through really quick, just to make sure that we understand what we're doing. So if you think you have it at this point, you can go ahead and end the video. If not, I've got about 6 more examples that I will show. Otherwise, good luck. So here we have negative 3.62 times 4.8. The 3.62 has more digits, so that's going to go on top. And remember, you do not need to worry about lining up the decimal. Multiplying these through, 8 times 2 is 16, carry the 1. 8 times 6 is 48, add the 1, 49, carry the 4. And 8 times 3 is 24, plus 4 is 28. Have a placeholder, and then move on to the next one. 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 6 is 24, and 4 times 3 is 12, plus the 2 is 14. Add this together, you have 6, 17, 13, 7, and 1. Go back to your original question. There are 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal, so that means we move the decimal 3 spots. Now, looking at the original, we have a negative times a positive, therefore my result should be negative. And there you have it. Let's skip this one. I think we can do that. Let's skip this one as well. Let's move on to the next page. We are multiplying a decimal by a fraction. A couple ways you can do this. You can either choose to change the negative 2 4/10 into a fraction, or you can change the 3/8 into a decimal. I will show you both ways to show you they are both pretty simple. Let's go with converting 3/8 into a decimal first. So what you need to do to convert is you need to literally do what it says here. Take the number 3 and divide it by 8. So you ask yourself, how many 8s go into 3? And you say, well, none. Once you get to that point, you got to just keep moving over your decimal places. How many 8s go into 30? 3. Multiply it around, you get 24. So you subtract, you get 6. Move down another spot. How many 8s go into 60? That's right, 7. So 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract, and you get a 4. We're not done yet. How many 8s go into 40? 5. Correct. And that gives you an even 40 with a no remainder. Once you get to 0, you're done. So we have successfully converted this 3/8 into the decimal 0.375. And now all we need to do is multiply these decimals. Now notice 0.375 has more digits than 2.4, so that goes on top. Multiplying, starting with the 4, you get 20. 4 times 7 is 28 plus 2, 31, or 30, my fault. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 3, 15. And 4 times 0 is 4, or 0, plus the 1 is just 1. Moving over, 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 7 is 14. Add the 1 is 15. 2 times 3 is 6, add the 1 is 7. And 2 times 0 is 0, leave it alone. Adding these numbers together, you get 0, 0, 0, carry the 1, that's 10, and you get 9. Taking a step back, go ahead and count the decimals. 1, 2, 3, 4 behind the decimal, so therefore we need to move the decimal 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your answer is 0 and 9/10. When writing your answer, do not put just 0.9, please. Always include the 0 in front of that decimal. Now let me show you the other way of doing this by converting the 2.4 into a fraction. 2.4, what you really need to do is read the number how it really should be read. 2.4 is really 2 4/10. When you read it, it makes the fraction very, very easy to create. Oh, my apologies. The answer previous should have been negative 0.9 because we're taking a negative times a positive, negative 0.9. Sorry, anyway. So 4/10, that's literally the fraction 2 4/10. Once you have that, you can simplify this even, if you want, times 3.3/8. Simplifying that fraction will make this an easier number to work with, so let's do that. 4/10 is really 2/5, so let's make that 2/5 instead before doing any multiplying. Oh, we have a mixed fraction, so make sure you make it improper. Again, 5 times the 2, then add the 2 on top. That gives you 12/5. And then all you need to do is multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. Oh, negative 12/5. Giving you 36 on top and 40 on the bottom. Negative 36/40. Reducing, I can see that these are both even, which makes them both divisible by 2, giving us 18/20. Those again are both even, giving us 9/10. And this is remaining negative. And 9/10, if you wanted to, is the decimal 0.9. These are the same answer. Either one would be acceptable. Notice you get the same answer. There are your two methods to solving your problems if you're ever multiplying a decimal times a fraction. Here are a couple more examples you can try if you think you need a couple more practice problems. However, that will be it for the video. Good luck. This was again Chapter 2, Section 4, Multiplying Rational Numbers.